World of Warcraft's impossible faction. What the hell could this be about? It's a nice cliffhanger. I don't really know anything about this, but let's check this video out and see what it's all about.
There is a faction in World of Warcraft that is entirely impossible for players to complete. In order to understand what is meant by a faction being impossible to complete, we must first take a look at how factions work.
You mean you can't fill up the reputation bar?
In World of Warcraft, players can interact with NPCs out in the world, and there are generally three categories of NPCs. The neutral, which often inhabit low-level starter zones. These NPCs will leave the player alone and only attack the player if they attacked first.
Right.
The hostile, which accounts for most NPCs in the game, who will attack the player if they get too close. And the friendly, which are often quest givers, vendors, or guards that will aid the player if they are attacked.
Yeah. See, a lot of times in life, the same applies, right? Like my wife can be all three of these, right? She can be friendly at times. There are other times where she's just neutral, just kind of walking around in her NPC pathway throughout the house during the day. And then there are those times in the month where, she's hostile, and it's best just not to pull any aggro at that time.
These three types of NPCs are fairly standard when it comes to MMOs and games in general, but in World of Warcraft, there exists a system which allows NPCs that are members of a given faction to change between friendly, neutral, and hostile based on the player's reputation with that specific faction.
That's true.
While there is more to this, especially in later expansions, here is a rough overview of how factions work within the game. In the faction system, the player can have one of 8 standings with a faction, which may be improved or decreased based on the player's actions. These are hated, hostile, unfriendly, neutral, friendly, honored, revered, and exalted.
Okay, he's talking about reputation.
The two lowest standings, hated and hostile, will have the faction members attack the player on sight. Getting to unfriendly will make the faction no longer attack you, but they won't interact with you in any way. After getting to neutral standing, the faction will usually interact with the player, allowing them to buy goods and sometimes even offering them quests. Having a friendly standing, most of the faction's content becomes available to the player, with a few quests and vendor items still being off limits. At Honored and Revered, the player will gain access to more items, as well as getting a discount when buying.
Right.
And finally, at Exalted, everything that the faction has to offer becomes available to the player.
You can literally have sex
with the faction. This is where the reputation grant for the faction is considered to be complete. It is also at Exalted that the faction counts toward the reputation-related achievements. Most reputation grants will take a good while to complete, with some of them being more manageable than others. In this video, we will take a look at a faction that is not just difficult, but entirely impossible to complete.
Impossible? What's he talking about?
This is the story of the Syndicate faction.
The impossible
The story starts in 2004, when World of Warcraft is released, with the first patch 1.1. Here, a lot of content and gameplay was not fully developed, and the factions were no different. Horde and Alliance players who ventured into the zones of Hillsbridge Foothills, Alterac Mountains, and Arathi Highlands would encounter hostile members of the Syndicate faction. Oftentimes, killing faction members lowers the player's reputation to the faction, but when players killed the Syndicate units, nothing happened at this time. Upon completing a repeatable quest in the Ravenhold Manor, located in a secluded area in the mountains between Hillsbridge Foothills and the Hinterlands, players would gain 50 reputation with the Ravenhold Manor, but also lose 250 reputation with the Syndicate.
Oh shit!
This was the first time that players will receive an adjustment to the Syndicate reputation.
The Scryers and the other one during Burning Crusade. Wasn't it that when you built up with one, you became less friendly with the other? You guys remember those two factions in Burning Crusade? Yeah, Scryer. I mean, of course I picked Scryer, but there was also the the more that you became friendly with one, the other disfavored you. Yeah, there's a bunch like that. Yeah, okay, so this is kind of working in the same way. Yeah, and Aldor, that was the other one. That's right. Yeah. Like literally in Shattrath, they would beat the fuck out of you if you went to the wrong one, which I did sometimes. If you had alts that had that you chose the alternate faction with, you'd forget which one you were playing. You'd go to the wrong side. Yeah, they throw nets on you, kick you the fuck out. Yeah, I remember that.
In the character reputation tab. The quest was labeled as rogue only, but this was not actually the case, as any class could just pick up the quest and complete it. Although rogues did have a much easier time gathering the quest items.
That makes sense.
Seeing this connection between the Ravenhold and the Syndicate faction, players switched on the Add War toggle with the Ravenhold Manor faction and attacked the guards. Surprisingly, upon being killed, they would award the player with 1 reputation for the Syndicate, but meanwhile decreasing the player's reputation with the Ravenhold by 25.
Oh, damn.
This was the first
Hatred's
and
easier
soon
to
to be
build
discovered
than
only
love.
way of increasing reputation with the Syndicate. This led to a lot of grinding, as players, by default, started with a hated standing with the Syndicate faction. Not deterred by this, players went to work and killed Ravenhold guards over and over.
Okay.
While a lot of players just had the goal of reaching unfriendly,
one rep at a time
where
for
the
each
Syndicate
death.
would no longer attack them on sight. Some players pushed on and eventually hit neutral after killing no less than 10,000 Ravenhold guards.
Holy shit.
Players who made it
That's a
this far
fucking massive. That's a purge. Oh my god. Killing 10,000? All for one rep each?
became stuck at neutral, as killing Ravenhold guards would no longer reward any reputation with the Syndicate. After searching for other means of increasing reputation with the Syndicate, players finally gave up and concluded that the faction was not possible to complete at
They
this
were
time.
just meant to be neutral, maybe.
This was not as unique as one might think, as there were actually 2 other impossible factions which also made it into the game on release. These 2 were the rivaling clans of Gelkis and Magram, located in the Desolate Zone, which at this time couldn't be completed either. While the Syndicate was just one of 3 impossible factions, this wouldn't be the case for long. As on patch 1.5, the Horde-specific Riventusk faction was added, with the main and only hub being located out the coast of the Hinterlands. This new faction was very incomplete, only having a few quests that would increase reputation. As a result, a player could not even reach friendly standing with the faction before they would run out of quests, none of which were repeatable. In the same patch, the Altruic Valley battleground was also added, and what a lot of people don't know is that in the very first version of the Altruic Valley, the Syndicate actually had a presence within the battleground.
Oh, no way.
Hoping for new quests or other interactions with the faction, players who had reached unfriendly or neutral with them would visit, only to learn that they were completely hostile despite having the gear
even if you
as
were
well
neutral?
as the tag of the Syndicate.
What dicks.
In the end, this didn't matter too much, as the
you forgot what I
Syndicate was
did for you?
removed from the Altruic Valley in patch 1.8, just 3 patches after the battleground's introduction. In patch 1.11, the very unfinished Riventusk Trolls faction would also go on to be removed. And by the end of Vanilla WoW, these 3 factions, the Gelkis clan, the Magram clan and the Syndicate, were once again the only 3 factions to be impossible to complete, a title that they would share for the next many years. The Syndicate's main enemies, the Ravenhold Manor, did receive more work in future expansions, with additions such as quests and having NPC kills award reputation.
They got more
And
love.
while the Syndicate reputation was made easier, having the reputation gained per kill increased from 1 to 5, the Syndicate reputation
1 to 5,
could still
so
only be
now you don't have to
increased
kill
by killing
10,000.
Ravenhold members, and as was the case from the very beginning, this reputation could not surpass neutral. After 12 years since the removal of the Riventusk Trolls, the Syndicate would finally become the last and only impossible faction. When a quest
This is pretty
had its
cool.
rewards adjusted in patch 8.1 when the Battle for Azeroth expansion released.
Oh shit, which side
Upon
did they follow?
completion, the player now gained exalted standing with both the Magram and the Gelkis clan, and those who had already completed the quest prior to this change could now talk to an NPC who would award the reputation right away.
Oh wow.
Seeing this change that was made in the Desolate Zone, players now started looking around the Hillsplit foothills, Eldrake Mountains and the Arathi Highlands Zone, hoping that something similar was added to the Syndicate reputation, which unfortunately wasn't the case. And from this point onwards,
Damn, these
the
guys just
Syndicate
wanna-
remains to be the last and only faction currently available in the game.
Wow, these
that
guys
players
just want to be neutral forever. They're putting the dick in Syndicate. I mean, hey, this exists in real life. Some people, no matter what you do for them, you're gonna be neutral forever. It's a lesson learned. That's it. Sometimes you just gotta walk away. You just gotta understand. Hey, no matter what I do for this person, they're just gonna be a neutral faction to me. So it's time for me to just move on.
cannot
let it
reach
go, guys.
Exalted with, by any means. Whether or not the Syndicate finally receives updates or continues in its current state will be up for time to decide. But with almost 19 years of being kept at neutral,
Yeah, they'll probably.
it could be
left there
argued
for now.
that the faction serves better as a window into a time long ago when World of Warcraft was new and packed with ideas that didn't all make sense and
Just
weren't
like
all
Elsa
completed
said,
in their
yeah.
entirety.
Let it go, boys. Just let it go. Interesting. What the hell? This is a video that just came out of nowhere. That's pretty cool. Yeah, the neutral faction. What have we learned? Many life lessons, guys. Many life lessons out of this video. And one of them, most importantly, sometimes you just gotta walk away. Gotta let it go. The party's gonna be neutral no matter what you do for them. You can kill 10,000. You can literally cause a genocide and remain neutral. It is what it is.